Hi everyone, and welcome to Billy Fitzgerald Golf. And I had a couple questions come in. The first one was, how do you use your left side if you don't feel enough pressure in your left side or front side in the ground? Which the short answer is you can't, and let's kind of dive into that and see why we can't do that. Secondly, is how you're using the ground or how you're pushing off the ground. What are you pushing with, and what direction and why are you pushing with? So the first question I want to get to, and this has definitely happened to me, is that you don't feel like your lead leg is in the ground to push off from. So what I mean by that is that if I swing back and I'm starting to swing down, or I transition, some of us are not feeling enough pressure in your lead leg to push away from the ball and make the club go through. Now, why would that be? And that is because your transition is too late. In other words, your transition, up top might be fine, but below it's too late. See, they can't all finish at the same time. That's why I don't like the word top of swing, because it's a domino effect. It's going to destroy the downswing. It's going to make you come over the top, not being able to use the ground. So it's going to do a couple different things to you, even though the transition, it takes very little time to do, but it's really important that it happens, A, soon enough, and B, that it happens at all, because it will be a domino effect. So transition, what do I mean by that, or if it's too late? See, if I go up all the way up here, and I swing all the way up, and I establish which is a top of swing. So top of golf swing would mean I've let my weight finish over here, I let my arms stop swinging, and then I go. See, I'm going to come over the top of it right away. And you can see if I do that, see, it's hard for me to get into that left side without me coming over the top. It's virtually impossible. That's why, again, you don't feel any weight in your lead side, because you're very late with your lower body. So as you swing back, see, as my arms are swinging back, I'm going into my lead side almost probably, for some of us, almost as soon as you start swinging the club back. So as you start swinging the club back and your right hip socket moves back and out of the way, so you're already starting to get to your left side. So by the time the club gets to the transition point, you can go. So again, what I would do is make some swings and just feel how that lead side, I go back, I get to my front foot. I go back, I get to my front foot. So you can see it's almost immediately when you swing back. Again, if I do it face on, hip socket goes back, I get to my front foot. Hip socket goes back. So what that does for me is when I transition, you can see that it pins my hip back, it pins my shoulders back, and it starts to let my arms come down, but it gets me into my foot. So if you're having trouble feeling the pressure in your lead foot to be able to push off of it, make sure that your transition doesn't have to be quick, it just has to be sooner. So as you swing back, you need to feel that you're setting back into that left leg. That's again where you'd want to feel like you sit. So as I swing back, I sit back into my left leg. As I swing back, I sit back into my left leg. So that's the first question, is that if you can't feel your lead side enough, make sure that your transitions happens a little sooner. Now, once you get into that foot, once we get into that foot and our transition happens and your arms start to come down, see, the transition does a few things for me. As I get into my lead foot, it makes my arms come down. It tilts my spine a little bit. And then from here, because I've gotten some weight into my front foot, I'm pushing away. So you can see not only is my hip going back, but it's going away from me. So I'm pushing away from the club. You can see how it extends my arms, and I'm pushing away from the club. So again, down the line, if I get right here and again I swing back, so here, transition, and I'm pushing away. As I'm pushing away this way, that's what makes my right side, right thigh, right foot move in or roll in. And it makes my arms go away. So I want to bring in a device that will help you or give you a little bit better picture of what we're talking about with that. So again, if you're having trouble feeling your front side, make sure that your transition's a little sooner. And then as we get into that front side, you're pushing away so the golf club can come through. What your forward leg does is it stops the forward momentum of you getting too far out. In other words, if I get here and I transition and I keep going, see how my foot and my hip, they all get outside my left foot. If I get way out here, see, I lose the ability to push back. So that's another reason why after we transition, you get in your foot. Once we get here, you push back and push away. Much like if you're hitting a baseball, you would push away this way. You can see how my hip's going out here. You wouldn't hit a baseball like this, step into it, drag your foot all the way up here, and then try to push back. See, if I slide like that, I can't push away and I can't push back. So again, my transition, when I get into my foot, now I start to push away. So I'm going to bring a device in that helps us give this picture of us not sliding, how we do our transition, when we do our transition, and what that picture feels like. So it's not a slide, it's an end of the foot and push away. From the makers of Orange Whip, we have what's called an orange peel here. So you can see it's got these sides that are leveled up on both sides of my feet, so it puts my feet inward. And what that'll really help us do is kind of give us this picture of, we don't want to feel like you're sliding way outside. So if you pictured, imagine that I was in a barrel and you wanted to feel like the pressure is always going kind of to the inside here. And that's what this orange peel does. It feels like you're pushing again away from the club. So as I'm swinging back and the face of the club's going that way, as my hip socket works back, I'm pushing away from the club. So not only am I pushing away from the ball, but I'm pushing away from the club. Again, now as I transition and I get into this foot and the club gets here, see, now I'm pushing away from the club again. You can see where my hip goes. So again, this is a great picture of what happens in the swing. So as we transition and the momentum of our swing starts to go forward, see, once you get here into your left leg, you put the brakes on right here and you push away, and it allows the face to accelerate. You don't want to be going way outside that foot. Same thing over here. Now, as there might be a little shift back on the backswing that's totally different than swaying and getting way back over your foot over here, outside your foot, but as I swing back, my hip socket goes back and it pushes away from the club. So it feels like my arms are getting pulled away from me as my hip goes in the opposite direction. And again, it feels the same way on the way through. Once I get into my left side, in other words, my lead leg in my transition, once I get up to it, see, I put the brakes on here, and as I push away, it accelerates the club. So this orange peel gives you a really good picture of how the swing wants to work here. So again, I'm pushing away from the ball, 1, and 2, I'm pushing away from the club. So it starts to give you an image and a picture of how the swing works. Now to wrap this up, it's a little bit easier to see face on, so we can hit a few balls doing this. So the first thing I want to show you is, again, to make sure that you're feeling that the transition, because we always have to start with making sure that there is pressure in your front leg. If there's no pressure, then you can't push off of it. So we have to make sure that the transition happens not fast enough, but early enough in your swing. You can even do this in slow motion. So get your grip ready and just make sure, start to feel how your transition goes a little early now. So I can feel that as I swing back, I can feel my foot is in the ground and then it can push away. So we'll hit one here, just concentrating on that foot getting a little bit more pressure. And so it starts to feel like I've got some rhythm in my swing. Do that one more time. So once the club gets about right here, and my hip's already back here, I'm already starting to feel like I'm changing directions here. One more, not really fast. So once again, probably, you know, definitely not more than waist high, and it's definitely not all the way up here and then trying to swing down from that would be the top. So the next thing I'd have you do is make some smaller swings and start to feel, after I transition, I start to feel the inside part of my foot. After I transition, I start to feel the inside part of my foot. See, that's what puts the brakes on, and I push away and it allows the club to go through. So do a couple small ones there. So as you swing back, it transitions. That's what puts the brakes on and pushes away from the club. So you can see I feel like I'm pushing that way. I'm going away from the club here. Do a small one here. So I almost feel like you're sitting back. What the other thing that does is it shallows me out. Guys and ladies that are sliders of the golf swing are notorious for being too steep. Because if I'm sliding, now I've got to get the club over this way. If I put the brakes on and push away, you can see it almost feels like my head goes back, my sternum goes back, and it really shallows me out. So hopefully that answers your questions and gives you a little more insight into the lower body. If you can't feel your lead leg, make sure your transition is happening soon enough. Again, if you feel, or in a more direct way of how to push, remember, once you get into that lead leg, that's what puts the brakes on. As I push away, it accelerates the club. Like and subscribe to my channel, Billy Fitzgerald Golf. Want to take a live lesson from me, or you have a question? Visit me at billyfitzgeraldgolf.com. And thanks for watching.